and welcome to the Amazing Conspiracy Realist channel. I am the Amazing Conspiracy Realist himself, Bryan Anthony Cirillo. Here we are at week 2 of ACRA Weekly, the Amazing Conspiracy Realist Academy Weekly Journal. And this year is going to be very different for the Amazing Conspiracy Realist channel. You will see more consistency, more transparency, and like I said last time, we got the Amazing Conspiracy Realist Academy in the works. So lots of great stuff coming from our end, as in me, because there's no staff. It's just me. I'm the only one. And enough about me. Today we're going to be looking once again at the different aspects of tarot and divination. And luckily we're going to get a chance to tie it all together. Well, not all of it, but we're going to tie a lot of divination practices together and weave them together. And so one of the best tools for that is this. This book in particular. There's a lot of books about tarot and astrology, so it's not just this book, but the idea. If your idea is to kind of weave those two worlds, I think you're headed in the right direction as a diviner. And so that's what we're going to be drawing from when it comes to the tarot. We're going to kill two birds with one stone: tarot and astrology. And then we just take this basic crystal reading, and that's going to be a part of the reading as well. We're going to see where the themes line up between the crystals, the cards, and the plants, herbs, flowers, trees. Yes. This deck, this tarot deck, is the Herbal Healing deck by Sarah Baldwin and it's illustrated by Ashley Verkamp. And these ladies, they did a great job of, they also have an entire book, much like this astrology and tarot book, but it describes the cards as plants, as plant energies. So that is what we'll be looking at as well. So we'll get an idea of the spirit of the herb, the spirit of the plant, and what it's telling us in relation to the situation. So very confusing for people that are really uninitiated, because they're going, where you don't have the plant on you, you're not actually using the physical plant as an herbal remedy. Well, in this book, it's also like an ingredients book, or like an herbal cookbook, because it does explain to you the actual properties of the herb and how beneficial it could be for you if you have it on hand. But if you don't have it on hand, it's about what that healing property teaches you about life. And that's what they describe in this book, and they do a good job of it. And we're going to get into that and see how, again, the themes line up. That is the key when you're talking about divination, astrology, tarot. What is the main theme that you're seeing over and over again popping up? And so how does it relate to the situation at hand? And so as a weekly tarot on a broadcast or on a show of this kind, it's going to be like a weather forecast, but instead of the physical weather conditions, it's the psychic weather, the clairvoyant see. So without further ado, we're going to do it old school. My favorite deck, Rider Waite deck, illustrated by Pamela Coleman Smith. Man, did they do a hell of a job, man. And I like the Thoth deck. It can get a little creepy, it can get a little spooky, and like I said, it's super blunt. And the Thoth deck is good for when you really want to get a nice, dose of hardcore truth. And sometimes you wonder if it's a little bit deceptive at times. But there's just some kind of old school, Western magical, Irish origins, a civilization kind of vibe. There's this special Arctic homeland kind of Western mystical vibe obviously, that these have. And to me, these are the first, through Michael Tsarian's Path of the Fool series, I went out and this is the first deck I ever got, and this is still the first deck that I ever got. I held on to it, and it's a Rider Waite deck, and it's gotten me through so many tough times. I've learned so much, and this deck has been there for nearly 10 years now by my side throughout all the ups and downs. And so it's very something I'm going to be cherishing and hanging on to for the rest of my life, is this Rider Waite deck. And so we'll draw a card first and foremost from that deck. Psychic weather for the week. January 2025. Mid-January 25. Oh wow. Okay, major stuff happening. Obviously everybody knows about the fires, but justice is coming in some form. Could it be the justice, so-called justice, or the actual thing? Well, when you're dealing with man's law and artificial systems, there is some form of artificial justice, but is it always truly just? Is it like a form of newspeak kind of just? Are we going to have justice in the form of when the smoke clears? Will there be people asking questions of the authorities? And will they be in getting direct conflict with the people who don't want to question authority, who want to believe everything that they're told, and don't understand that things are not always as they seem? Even if you saw it on TV, TV can be manipulated. Editing can happen in so many ways. I mean, there's things that when you go work for an organization like CNN or Fox News, you're at the scene of a crime or a site of some major event, and you as the director of the crew can decide what you're going to film, what you're not, how you're going to explain things that are filmed. I mean, people think that the news is gospel, and they really will fight you on it because they don't want to think at all, because they've already replaced their thoughts with devotion. And that is what being in a cult is all about. And so that's just my initial intuitive, string of consciousness as the Justice card was pulled in that moment. Okay, but we're going to go through all the cards first, not like I did last time. We'll go through each card, then I'll go through the meaning in each book that we discussed. So, for the Herbal Healing deck, drawing a card from the Herbal Healing Tarot deck by Sarah Baldwin. Oh. Daffodil, self-worth. So now we're looking into more of a personal, instead of the worldly kind of picture. Now we're dealing with internal, personal kind of questions. I think a lot of people are going to be questioning their environment this year. And so people out in California obviously are going to be questioning, why do we even live out here if this can happen? If there's so many issues like this, and we don't even have a home, some of us, and it's like one of those things where you learn about it in school, if you've gone to public school, or hopefully if you've gone to, your parents have taught it to you, or you've learned it at some point, that you learn that human beings have decided to somehow set up shop in places that are not really meant to be inhabited, or there's going to be problems down the line if there's too much development. And so we're just seeing the repercussions of that. Ralph Smart, a guy I have a lot of respect for, Infinite Waters, Diving Deep, great guy, another Pisces guy. So I have a lot in common with this guy, you know, as far as just like, I get where he's coming from, and I don't have to like, you know, I'm not confused by like the way he explains things. I think he does a good job. And I wish I wasn't like so vindictive to call him out on like the one thing I disagree with him on, but I was just surprised to hear him say that he didn't really give much credence to the directed energy technology argument for the fires. I mean, I just don't know if someone that doesn't really give any of that stuff any credence, I'd be interested into what they have to say. I would hope that it would be more than just, I don't believe in it, or I've never heard of it, or that's crazy. And he was just saying he didn't believe in it in that moment. He didn't believe in it. And it's like, it's not the only explanation. And then, of course, there's other explanations, like they just, you know, they should have kept the wetlands there to regulate the temperature. They should have burned brush, because that wasn't against the environment. It was to keep this from happening. And since they didn't do it, then now it happened. Like, there's so many different angles to this. And then some girl today, even at work, who said that she's a little bit on the conspiracy angle without even me having to prompt her, she just said it. And like, you know, we saw these drones everywhere, and then all of a sudden fires, you know, scorched earth, war zone. And that's always deceptive when the media, they let on way more than, they know more than they let on. And I feel bad for people who can't see that. Sometimes I feel bad for people who can't see that. I think sometimes they don't want to see it, and that they're just cowards. But then they're so deceptive. They'll say it's like a war zone. It's like a war zone. They said this at every fire. It's like a war zone out there. Scorched earth. Like, you know, apocalyptic. And it's not those are not bad descriptive words for if it is just like a natural fire. But I mean, there's obviously already going to be the conspiracy denial, fake ass loser crowd who's going to sit there and say, how dare you say the government started these fires? This is what a Trump supporter would say, or, you know, that's what a crazy libtard would say, or it doesn't even matter. It's anyone that's not me that might be saying something that I'm not comfortable with. People don't, you know, I don't have a problem with people saying things that make me uncomfortable. What makes me uncomfortable is untruth. What makes me uncomfortable is blind trust. Blind trust. And a lack of mistrust in authority. You have mistrust in other people and your peers, and you're keeping tabs on everybody all the time. But then you don't want to mistrust the institutions behind it all. And wow, we got some ragtag bunch over there, government-wise, in LA. I mean, I felt like I was sitting listening to the mayor of Tromaville. You know, you have to look at the faces on some of these people that are in government out there, and you know, it's like really like some of them you could see are remorseful, but like there's other people who you could just take a look at them and they could give a shit. You know, they're thinking about, you know, what they're gonna have for lunch. You know, so the problem is people when a crisis happens, they turn to the people that care the least. It's so sad. Because they want the people that care the least to care the most, but they care the least. And they have the most power. So they care the least, they have the most power. What do you think is going to happen? Now I've gone into a rant, which is what I promised myself I wouldn't do. But here I am intuiting the cards without having to sit here and read it off. which I know can be boring, but it's for educational purposes, because it's not just about giving people a psychic weather report. It's about also teaching people how to do this for themselves, so that you can give yourself your own psychic weather report for your own personal growth and journey. All right, so we got the plants, we got the other tarot, Rider Waite Tarot. And so now let us turn to the crystals, as I grab a handful and just shake them about. Ooh. Okay. Oh, wow. So last week we had green aventurine, and this week we got yellow aventurine. So it fills one with compassion and understanding, alleviating grief and centering emotions. Okay. So, alleviating grief, centering emotions. People go, I can only imagine what people out there in California are dealing with. And you'd be surprised when something like as shocking as losing your home happens. Something so big and so monumental that there's almost like this, it's so bad that it's like a calming effect, like you gotta let it go in that instant because it's gone. And the other thing is, we don't want people have to recognize, and what's sad is that when people go through tragedy, the hardest part is when you are looking to lean on somebody or looking to confide in somebody, or you're not on and you're not with it, and you're scatterbrained and you're forgetting things, and because you need help. So people are going to need to stay with other people, and people are going to need to mingle with other people that are in a desperate situation, who are going to be kind of tense and on edge. And it's not like you let those people just slide if you're going through some shit, so you're tense, you're on edge, so you can do whatever the hell you want. But at the same time, people need to be more sensitive to how trauma affects people's, well-being. And so the worst thing you're gonna have is, are you okay? You don't seem okay. Like, you'll have these kinds of questions being asked to people that were obviously through something traumatic, and you'll see someone having this interaction, and you want to save that person. It's like no, they're okay, they're just upset now you run along now, you crazy motherfucker, because if you have a problem with this person who is clearly upset for a good reason, then maybe you're the one who should go, fuck off somewhere in some loony bin or whatever. Because this is what you're getting out there, is insensitivity to emotion stemming from trauma. And so it's heightened and more specified within the United States, within the situation we're dealing with now. And so whatever lessons are derived from that is what we're going to be, seeing. And so that's what the yellow aventurine is asking of people, to be more compassionate to people that are going through hard shit and hard times. Not even just in relation to this, or, it's like it's not about placing more compassion for this person or that experience. It's about listening and understanding. It's more than just to be like, okay, but are you okay? Than just being like, right on, I hear you, I get it. Or people don't like it when you say I get it for some reason. I don't mind it, I get it. All right, Or if they don't get it, then they don't get it. If you really don't get it, don't say I get it. But if you're there for them and you're listening, I'm listening, I understand how you're feeling, because you don't even need to fully understand the context of the situation to understand how someone might be feeling. So, Yellow Aventurine, more compassion towards people who are experiencing traumas that we might not always be able to understand or imagine. So that's cut. McGill cut. Alright, now we'll take a break. I'll go drink and I'll read all this stuff. So, justice, of course, in the sign of Libra. The goddess Justice has assumed many forms, from her earliest incarnations in ancient Egypt to her prominent position in modern-day courtrooms. She comes to life in the Justice card, where she balances an archetypal set of scales and serves as a compelling witness to the importance of honesty and truth. Now, unfortunately, this text is just some basic kind of outline, and it's not written by any spiritual anarchist. It's just written by a tarot enthusiast, which is fine for what we're doing. But of course, it's going to say like, oh yeah, and it's all, just acknowledging the fake law system. But it's about, obviously, honesty and truth. This is one archetype that people don't really need to, they actually know, without even needing to know like the tarot or even what an archetype is. They just know. People know Lady Justice archetype in general. Lady Liberty obviously this is where Lady Liberty comes from as an archetype, is Lady Justice. So in ancient Egypt, they recognized the justice as goddess of justice was Mayat. She was the goddess of truth and justice. All right, and ultimately that equates to higher love, agape love. So, Egyptian goddess of truth, who weighed the hearts of the dead before they could pass into the afterlife. On her scales, a pure heart would weigh no more than a feather. Mayat, like Libra, was the embodiment of cosmic order, natural law, right? Lex naturalis. Cosmic order. The universe is working perfectly in order. So you got to get with it. It doesn't get with you. You get with it. But that doesn't mean get with society when society is going in the opposite direction of natural law. It's about having a keen sense for where the true justice card is. You might also know her as Themis, the ancient Greek goddess. She's going all over the place. You've lost me. Well, how? Because the theme is the same across cultures and backgrounds. So you got Mayat, represents the same thing as Libra. Libra represents the same thing as the Justice card in the Tarot. Themis, I might be saying that wrong. Thymes, okay, is in the Greek tradition. So, yeah, I mean, this is just, I'm just picking up notes from the text here. So in Tarot, Venus, so Libra is the seventh sign and rules the seventh house of the zodiac, where astrologers look for information about marriage, partnerships, and intimate relationships. Libra, in turn, is ruled by Venus, the planet of love and appreciation, beauty, and harmony. For that reason, Libra rules all of the arts, from theaters to concerts halls to art galleries. So as I was reading that passage, I was just thinking, a lot of people out there in California in these fancy schmancy mansions probably lived a lot of jaded lives. Not all of them, but I'm sure there's some of them, who lived a lot of jaded existences, didn't really appreciate the person that they devoted to spend the rest of their life with, you know, just dealing with all this stress and all this just work stuff and just, you know, being parents and just back and forth and grinding and doing all the stuff that as anarchists we say you need to stop doing. You need to actually wake up to what's really going on and make an effort to change things and stop propping up the system that's enslaving you. But nonetheless, you know, people are busy doing these things and growing apart as they're doing it. And so when things like this happen, while it's obviously horrible to lose your home, this might be a time where people are reflecting on what they have in terms of non-material things. And so some people's relationships are actually going to improve because of what's happened, because the crisis will help them grow together as a couple, or as a family, or as a whatever. Whoever you have to live with, whoever you have to put up with in your life, or whoever is, you know, your loved ones, let's say. And I don't know why I'm laughing. Anyway, so I'll go into that. So that there you go, the Justice card. I think that either people are going to sink or swim in their relationships. Either this is going to help bring them together, or it's going to drive them further apart, because they're going to get to see who they are with behind the mask. Because just like in COVID, they tried to get you to wear a mask, but because everyone was going nuts, you saw behind the mask. Even so. And that's what's going to happen with this too. So, daffodils, self-worth. So how we have, you know, relationships thriving in crisis. You know, the Justice card coming in and resetting the balance. You know, resetting the heart math. And then you have yellow averturine, which is about having compassion for people who have gone through some tough times, that are some very unusual tough times, and not being so aloof and not trying to like misplace people's emotions. And understand that sorrow and anger are legitimate emotions, and that it's, you know, we got to really stop this cult of randomness. It's really killing perception. Accuracy in perception is killed by this cult of randomness. I hear it all day from people that are in relationships that just go on, he did this, she did that, he did, she said, they did, said this, that, and what is your conclusion about all that? I have no idea. You know, it's not all about, it's about what does it mean? What is the pattern telling us? So, let's head to the plants section here. So what could a daffodil spirit possibly have to weigh in on a situation like this? Have you ever asked yourself such a thing? Well, today you are. And it says, the yellow blooms of daffodil are native to Europe and North Africa. They are naturalized in the United States through long-time popularity in home gardens. Right. So, through these harbingers of springtime are typically considered ornamental. They do have a history of use in herbal medicine. Various cultures use daffodil for fever, coughs, epilepsy, and the external treatment of wounds. So there you go. explaining to you things that you might never know about something that you might see all the time. A daffodil, very common garden plant. However, a peek into the Greek myth of Narcissus sheds light upon the central energetic lessons of this plant. Narcissus was a handsome boy who spurned the advances of many. Eventually, he caught the eye of a woodland nymph named Echo, who was cursed so that they could not speak first but could only echo what others said. Sounds like Project Mockingbird for all you conspiracy people out there. Ultimately, he learned how unrequited love felt when he fell in love with his own reflection in the pool of water. He wasted away by the water's edge. Legend has it that Narcissus flowers sprang up where his body lay. So I think that says a lot about beauty and the different forms that it can take, and how there's no real unrequited love when you realize that there is no separation between you and that force. And so, of course, you know, he's all bummed out because he can't fuck himself. But he fucking passes out because of that, and then a bunch of flowers bloom because his beauty transcends his perception. And so, where the hell was I? I don't know. I'll just start off here. Alternatively, if you struggle with envy or jealousy. All right. So how about after the kid? You know what I just explained about that guy. When Daffodil comes into your life, lessons in self-worth and ego are at hand. Okay, so that's important. However, it does not mean that you are narcissistic or self-centered. Now, this is a huge thing. Huge misconception with people. So someone who's taking care of their own shit, someone who doesn't really want to hang out and do the same old things they used to do because they want to become someone better, and so they want to start doing new habits so they could start having a new experience. And then they get all the people from their old habits all bummed out. And then they try to bring him back into the fold. And that's not doing your friend a favor. You know, let's bring him back into the fold that like set his life on not such a great path. But we can't, right, because it's not about helping your friend. It's about lying to yourself. We can't accept the fact that what we're doing creates the result in our lives that it creates. So if you're coming to that conclusion, that the things that you're doing are creating the results in your life, and you're doing the same things as everyone else in the group, well then we can't have that, because that means that we have to change too if we want to see different results. And so again, the truth becomes the enemy. And it's not about, oh, we miss you, we want to bring you back in the fold, why don't you just do the things you used to always do? It's because they just don't want the change to reveal something about themselves. The thing about it is, some things that people do, they're meant to do, and they're meant to, you know, they can have it be a part of their life. And it's part of their path. Other things, so not, you know, just because someone doesn't want to come to Mahjong and they'd rather, you know, study a whole nother subject or engage in a whole other activity, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do the thing that you like to do. This is why we have to let people be sovereign unto themselves. And then, you know, and so that's where there's a lot of mistrust. And this is where you lose a lot of normies, because they just like not willing to let people be free, not willing to acknowledge sovereignty in others, definitely in themselves, but they'll never talk about that, because everything is fine as long as you don't talk about it. That's the social norm, you know, way of doing things. And I think that in 2025 and beyond, we need to get past that. and start getting into nature and our higher purpose and what the potential is and where we're going. Because that situation, you know, it's not looking so great for humanity, at least. Daffodils are extremely strong flowers. They are often biggest and brightest blooms to poke their heads out of the ground in the early spring. They can survive cold weather, frost, and even snow. Your willpower is equally strong. Now is the time to assert your authority and take action in the direction of your dreams. So have the internal authority, the internal monarchy. Assert your authority doesn't mean assert your authority over someone else. It's about taking control of your own life, your own internal system, and don't have that internal monarchy be based on some system, you know, that's been passed down by some dark kind of, you know, mojo. Make sure it's something pure of heart and in keeping with principles of natural law. And there are ways to do that in the Christian tradition. There's ways to do that in the Buddhist tradition. It doesn't matter what flavor your flavor is, man. But the cosmic law is still the same. And so I think this daffodil reminds me of solar energy. And it's about, you know, now that you've done the shadow work, what are you going to bring to the table? How are you going to shine your light? What face are you going to show to the world now that you have done the inner work? And even if you're in the process of doing it, you could still bring something to bear. So, and that's what last year was all about for my Livewire podcast rants that kind of went out of control. And I just kind of, you know, started to get a little bit, you know, overly negative and overly, you know, just, I guess, insulting and bullying and just belligerent. And, you know, maybe after I've been doing this 20, 30 years, you know, but here in this context, I just want to teach people how to do the tarot and look at divination from another perspective. And so in a more non-threatening way, this is going to be what this show is all about. When I get into the occulted, yeah, there's going to be some hardcore, you know, truths dug up, and there's going to be some, you know, not so nice words said about certain people, you know, that are in control, or people that let certain things happen. But for this, try to keep it light and try to just keep it about what can you bring to the table. You know, how are you showing up for your higher purpose, for your self-worth, you know? And is it just? Is it based in a just perception of reality? And like, is it based in your own conclusion about yourself, based on your experiences and what you've learned, what you couldn't unsee? What have you learned from what you couldn't unsee? And that's something that other people can't see about you. So when they're giving you advice, when they're telling you how to do it, when they're telling you they know the way and they're not where you want to be, it's not gonna fly. So you have to be the one to fly. And so that concludes our weekly report. This is the Amazing Conspiracy Realist channel, and I'm signing off as the Amazing Conspiracy Realist himself, Bryan Cirillo. Bon voyage.